Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The juice glass was still cold. I remember that. She hadn't even taken a sip yet. It was Saturday morning. She sat across from me at the kitchen table in that ridiculous old hoodie she always wore when she wanted something. You know the one. Oversized, sleeves stretched from years of nervous fidgeting, a tiny coffee stain near the collar. It used to belong to me, like everything else in this house once did. She stirred her spoon in circles, though there was nothing in her cup to stir. Then she looked up, eyes calm, voice steady, and said, "Everett, I want to spend a night with someone else." That was it. No build-up, no fight, no slow, tearful confession. Just those words, dropped like a dead bird in the middle of our breakfast. I thought I misheard her. I hoped I misheard her. But she kept talking. "He's not just some stranger," she said. "He's someone I trust. Someone I've known for a while. I just need to feel something different. Something exciting. Just one night. That's all." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My ears were ringing. I was frozen somewhere between heartbreak and humiliation. I stared at the fridge magnet that said, "Love grows here," and felt like laughing. Or throwing up. Or both. She called it an experiment. Said it might help us reconnect. Like our marriage was a science project and I was just another variable. I didn't ask who he was. I already knew. Her photography buddy Seth. The guy who always texted her at 11 p.m. to critique her lighting. The one whose name she never saved in her phone, just an emoji. She mistook my silence for agreement. That's when I finally spoke. "Fine," I said. "But I have two conditions." Her eyebrow twitched. "Two options," I clarified. "Pick one." She nodded slowly, like she was waiting for some boring husband logic to talk her out of it. "Option one, you go. You come back. And you tell me every detail. No holding back. Not because I want to know, but because I need to know exactly how far you went." She blinked. The spoon stopped stirring. "Option two," I continued, "you go. And when you come back, I'm gone. No yelling. No questions. No closure. I'll just vanish." She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "And no, you don't get to pick both. You pick before you leave." There was a long silence. Then she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "I pick option one." She picked the one she thought gave her power. But she forgot something important. I never said those were the only options. She packed like she was going on a weekend getaway, not blowing up a marriage. I stood in the hallway and watched her fold a silk blouse into a duffel bag we bought together for a hiking trip we never took. I didn't say a word. Just watched. Observed. Counted every movement. Every careless little sign that she didn't think this night would change anything. Dana was calm. Too calm. Like she believed she could tiptoe into infidelity and stroll back into our home like it was just another chapter in her self-help book. She had already decided it wasn't cheating. She framed it like some sort of therapy. "One night to feel something again," she'd said. "It doesn't have to define us." But the moment she zipped up that bag, she redefined everything. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask where she'd be going. Because I already knew. I saw the hotel reservation on our shared calendar 3 days earlier. She labeled it Yoga Workshop. In York. I almost laughed when I saw it then. I didn't laugh now. When she walked out the door, she kissed my cheek like it was a formality. I flinched, but she didn't notice or didn't care. The door clicked shut behind her, and I stood there, finally alone. And then I moved. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I acted. First, I opened the locked drawer in my desk. The one she never cared about. The one with all the pieces of me I'd hidden away over the years. My old notebooks, receipts, passwords, a few printed emails I hoped I'd never need again. There was also a flash drive. It had photos on it. Screenshots. Conversations. Things I never wanted to see again but kept, just in case I ever needed to remember the version of Dana that wasn't filtered through love and hope. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop and just stared. There she was, 3 years ago, smiling on a trip she told me was for work. In the corner of one picture, Seth's reflection appeared in a hotel mirror. She didn't even crop him out. That's how untouchable she thought she was. But this wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about making a choice. I started writing an email. Subject line, option 3. I wrote it to myself, a message that outlined everything I was about to do. Because if I was going to disappear, I needed a plan. A controlled detonation. Not just walking out the front door. I wanted to walk away knowing I left nothing behind that she could twist or control. I made a list. Bank accounts, moved half into my private account. Title to the car, already in my name. My old rental property, untouched, paid off, ready. My job, remote. I could leave and still keep my paycheck. The dog, he'd come with me. She never walked him anyway. She thought she had options. She thought she had time. What she didn't know was that while she was out having her reset, I was preparing to erase myself from her story entirely. She would come back expecting tears, maybe even forgiveness. What she would find was silence. And then, I heard the ding. A message from her. 2 words. I'm here. So was I? Just not in the way she expected. While Dana was settling into her hotel room with someone else's cologne in the air, I was tossing shirts into an old duffel bag, the same one I hadn't used since my father's funeral. I never told her this, but I kept that bag packed in the attic. Not with clothes, but with pieces of me I never showed her. My high school yearbook, a few notes my mom had written before she passed, my journal from 2012 when I thought life was finally going to get better. That journal sat there with so many pages left blank, like I had been waiting to write the ending when things felt okay again. But tonight, I opened it and started writing again. This time, not with hope, with clarity. I didn't feel like the victim anymore. Not because what she did wasn't cruel. It absolutely was. But because I had finally stopped begging for something she'd already withdrawn months ago. Effort. Love. Honesty. Instead of mourning what was lost, I was watching it rot from the roots. And the strangest thing? That brought a calm I hadn't felt in years. I turned off my phone and left it on the kitchen counter. I wanted her to wonder when I stopped responding. I wanted her to ask herself if she had pushed just a little too far. She wouldn't know I saw the text, "I'm here." She wouldn't know I stared at it for 5 minutes, then placed the phone face down next to her half-empty water bottle. By the time midnight rolled around, I had loaded the car with just the essentials, my laptop, clothes, some old framed photos I didn't want her to keep out of spite, and our dog, Jasper, who wagged his tail like we were just going on a fun trip. I looked back at the house one last time. Everything we built, it looked so ordinary now. Just walls and furniture. A hollow space pretending to be a home. The hardest part was knowing I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even shocked. I was just done. And maybe that's worse. Maybe that's what she never expected, that I'd stop fighting for something she'd already replaced. As I drove away, I passed the streetlight where she once told me she loved me for the first time. Back then, she was crying in the passenger seat because she thought I'd leave her if she didn't say it. I should have realized that night that love, for her, was always about fear, not commitment. The drive to my old rental took less than 2 hours. No traffic. Just me, Jasper, and a quiet road lit by headlights and regret. When I got there, the place smelled like dust and paint, but it was mine. No framed wedding photos. No fake apologies. Just space. Just peace. I sat on the floor, Jasper curled beside me, and I opened my laptop. I drafted one final message. No goodbye. No long explanation. Just a subject line. You picked option 1. I chose option 3. I didn't even send it yet. I wanted her to read it the moment she stepped inside and realized the silence wasn't accidental. Because she would come home the next day expecting tears. A conversation. Maybe even a fight. But what she'd find was a house with no footprints. And a man who had already turned the page. She came back Sunday evening, exactly 24 hours after she'd left. She didn't text. She didn't call. Maybe she thought she didn't need to. Maybe she assumed I'd be waiting there on the couch, same as always, pretending I was okay as long as she looked me in the eye and said some rehearsed apology that made everything fine again. But what she walked into was nothing. No dog barking at the door. No clinking from dishes in the sink. No light in the hallway. Just silence, and a folded sheet of paper on the kitchen counter with her name on it. The cameras I installed 6 months ago, another precaution she never noticed, captured her standing there with her hand on the paper for a long time. She didn't open it right away. She paced, looked around the living room, called my name once, then twice, louder. Nothing. That's when she finally opened the letter. It wasn't a dramatic manifesto. Just 5 lines. You chose to cross a line. I chose not to live behind it. You picked your night. I picked my ending. Option 3 was never up for negotiation. She didn't cry. Not then. I saw her sit on the couch and just freeze. The same woman who once said, "Nothing shocks me anymore," was staring into space like she had just been dropped into a world that didn't recognize her. But I wasn't watching in real time. I had no desire to spy on her emotions. I watched the footage later, after the message came in. Because around 8:12 p.m., my old phone lit up. Not with a call. She knew better than that. It was a single message from a number I didn't recognize, but I knew exactly who it was from. The text read, "Is this really what you want?" I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another message came through. "You could have just told me how much this hurt you." That one actually made me laugh. As if I hadn't spent the last 2 years doing exactly that. Through words, silence, therapy, and even the way I started flinching when she touched me. I left her keys in the mailbox. No drama. No confrontation. I wasn't going to play her game. She wanted to feel alive with someone else for one night. She could feel the aftershocks alone too. But here's the twist she didn't count on. I had filed the separation papers months ago. I just never submitted them. My attorney was on standby. The rental property was transferred to my name last year. The second checking account? It had been growing quietly with each paycheck. Every exit I needed had already been paved. I wasn't running away. I was finishing what she started. And as much as it hurt, God, it hurt. I realized I wasn't leaving her because she slept with someone else. I was leaving because she expected me to wait for her to come back. Like a fool. Like a pet. Like her pain sponge. No, not this time. I spent that night on a mattress in my empty rental, listening to the wind hit the windows. Jasper curled up at my feet. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't regret a thing. And in the morning, I sent her the final message. Just 3 words. This is real. By Monday afternoon, the messages started piling up, texts, emails, even a voicemail from her sister. They all carried the same tone, confusion disguised as concern. Dana must have told them something vague like I overreacted or needed space, because no one sounded like they understood what really happened. That was fine by me. Let them be in the dark. I had lived there long enough. What none of them knew was that this wasn't a sudden outburst. This had been building brick by silent brick. Every night, she turned away in bed. Every time she laughed at a message and wouldn't explain why. Every deflection when I tried to talk about us. I didn't explode. I evaporated. Piece by piece, I stopped existing in the version of marriage she had created. And now that I was truly gone, she was scrambling, not because she missed me, but because she didn't know how to control the fallout. But I wasn't hiding. I was just unavailable. I went to work as usual, answered emails, fed Jasper, made dinner for one. There was something oddly peaceful about it. A kind of quiet that didn't need explanation. No passive-aggressive sighs from across the room. No cold shoulders wrapped in justifications. Just me and the dog and the echo of a life I had the nerve to walk away from. Then, on Wednesday, it happened. I was sitting on the porch of the rental, drinking burnt coffee and reading an old paperback I found in a donation box when a car pulled up. I knew the sound of that engine before I even saw it. It was Dana's. She had driven over. Somehow, she figured out where I went. Maybe through her sister, maybe she guessed. Doesn't matter. What matters is what she brought with her. She stepped out of the car holding the photo album, the one we made in our second year of marriage. She hadn't opened that thing in at least 5 years. I watched her walk up the steps slowly, unsure of whether to knock or just wait for me to invite her. I didn't move. I sat there like a statue while she stood on the top step, holding the memories like a peace offering she found at the bottom of a drawer. "I just wanted to talk," she said, voice small. "Can I come in?" "No," I said. She flinched. "Please," she whispered. "Everett, I made a mistake." "You made a decision," I corrected. "Not a mistake. You don't accidentally book a hotel and pack lingerie." Her lips trembled. "I didn't think you'd leave." And there it was. The most honest sentence she'd spoken in years. "You never do," I said, standing up. "You count on people staying, no matter how you treat them. But I don't owe you that anymore." She tried to hand me the album. I didn't take it. "I kept it," she said, "because I thought maybe. I don't need a scrapbook to remember what went wrong." I interrupted. "You think one night broke us. But you were tearing this apart long before that." She stood there, frozen, unsure of what to say next. For the first time, I saw it, real fear. Not because I was yelling, not because I was cruel, but because I was gone in a way she couldn't fix. And when she realized I wasn't going to change my mind, she turned and walked back to her car. She left the photo album on the porch like it meant something. But it didn't anymore. I watched her drive away without a word. That night, I flipped through the album once. Then I threw it in the trash. After she drove away that night, I sat in the dark for a long time. The trash can sat by the door, the photo album half buried under old newspapers. I could still see the corner of it sticking out, like it was staring at me, daring me to dig it back out. I didn't. Not because I didn't care anymore, but because I finally understood that caring was the very thing that had kept me trapped for so long. Dana had always been the kind of person who believed that regret could undo reality. That as long as she said the right words, she could rewrite the past. I used to believe it too, but now I knew better. The next morning, I woke to the sound of knocking. Not pounding, just this slow, deliberate rhythm that made Jasper bark. I opened the door expecting her again, but instead found a courier holding a padded envelope. No return address, just my name in Dana's handwriting. Inside was a single key and a note that read, "You forgot something." No explanation. No apology. Nothing else. The key was to our safety deposit box at the bank. I didn't even remember she still had access to it. My chest tightened. For a second, I thought maybe it was some cruel metaphor, her way of saying, "You still have a piece of me." But curiosity got the better of me. I went to the bank. When I opened the box, there wasn't much inside. A few old papers, our marriage certificate, and an envelope with my name again. I took it to the car and opened it slowly, expecting a letter. But inside were photographs, printed, not digital, and not ones I had taken. They were from that night. Her reset. Her attempt to feel something. The man's face was cropped out, but the hotel room was unmistakable. And right there, beside the bedside lamp, was her wedding ring, sitting on the table like an afterthought. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just sat there, realizing that she must have known I'd find these. She wanted me to. It was her way of controlling the narrative, her final attempt to frame the story as something she was still in charge of. But all it did was prove how little she understood me now. I wasn't the same man who needed explanations. I wasn't the husband who begged to be chosen. I was the guy who had already left, and now, she was the one chasing ghosts. I drove straight home and tossed the entire envelope into the fire pit behind the house. The flame caught fast, curling the edges of the paper, eating the colors, erasing her moment of freedom one frame at a time. For the first time, I didn't imagine what she was feeling. I didn't wonder if she was sorry. I just watched the smoke rise and thought about how something could disappear so completely and still leave a scent behind. That night, she texted again. "You found it, didn't you?" I stared at the screen and typed one sentence before deleting it. I didn't know her an answer. Not anymore. Instead, I blocked her number, turned off my phone, and let the world go silent again. Because when someone burns the bridge between you, you don't rebuild it. You watch the fire, and you keep walking. And somewhere in that silence, for the first time, I felt free. A week passed. Not a word. Not from her. Not from her sister. Not from the friends we once shared who, I'm sure, had started whispering their theories in hushed tones. I imagined the narrative she was spinning, how I had abandoned her or overreacted, how I wouldn't even talk about it. That was her favorite move. Bend the truth just enough to make herself the victim, then sit back and act wounded when people didn't agree. But I didn't care anymore. She could craft whatever story helped her sleep at night. I was done handing her the materials. The silence, however, wasn't peaceful like I expected. It was too still, too empty. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling fan, listening for sounds that never came, her laugh from the other room, the way she used to hum while brushing her hair. I didn't miss her. I missed the illusion, the routine, the comfort of pretending we were still something worth saving. On Thursday, I took Jasper for a long drive. I needed space, even from my own thoughts. We ended up at a park an hour away, a place we hadn't visited since the early years. I sat on a bench while Jasper sniffed around, and out of pure instinct, or stupidity, I checked the blocked messages folder on my phone. There were 11 new texts from Dana. The most recent one had been sent just a few hours earlier. All it said was, "You think you're punishing me, but you're punishing both of us." It took everything in me not to respond. That line was classic Dana, manipulative, self-centered, and wrapped in just enough faux vulnerability to make it feel sincere. But it wasn't. It never was. She didn't want us back. She wanted control back. The power to reset the board and pretend her night of freedom didn't blow everything apart. The moment I put the phone back in my pocket, I saw a familiar figure walking toward me from across the field. For a split second, I thought I was hallucinating. But no, there she was. In person. Not a text. Not a call. Dana. She stopped a few feet away, clearly nervous. You blocked me, she said, as if that was the crime. I did, I replied flatly. You asked for space. I gave it to you in full. She hesitated. I just wanted to talk. Talking would have been good before the hotel, I said. Not after. She folded her arms like she was cold. She wasn't. It was 80 degrees. I didn't think you'd go this far. That's because you never believed I could, I said. You thought I'd beg, that I'd wait, that I'd break before I ever walked. There was a long pause. Her face changed. It wasn't sadness. It was realization. She knew this wasn't just me being emotional. This was me decided. I know I hurt you, she said finally. But I thought. You didn't think, I cut in. You gambled. And you lost. Dana looked away. It was just one night. It was the night that told me everything I needed to know, I replied. She stepped forward, almost like she was going to reach for me, but I backed away. No, I said. You don't get to touch me now. You made your choice. I made mine. She stood there for a while, maybe hoping I'd soften. But I didn't. I just walked past her, whistled for Jasper, and headed toward the car. When I looked back, she was still standing there, arms limp at her sides, like someone watching a train they thought would never leave suddenly vanish over the horizon. I didn't hate her. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just didn't recognize her at all. And that's when I knew. She wasn't losing me anymore. She had already lost herself. 3 months have passed since that final conversation in the park. She didn't show up again after that. No more texts. No more surprises. And not once did I wonder where she was or who she was with. That part of my life, our life, was over. Clean. Quiet. Done. I stayed in the rental for a while. Longer than I thought I would. At first, it felt like a temporary shelter, a place to catch my breath. But over time, it started to feel like something I hadn't felt in years, mine. No tension in the walls. No stage smiles. Just stillness. Jasper adjusted fast. Dogs always know when peace replaces chaos. He'd nap in the sunlight by the window, tail thumping softly like he was proud of me for finally choosing calm. I started cooking again. Real meals, not just microwave stuff. I even picked up my guitar, the one I hadn't touched since year 4 of our marriage. It had dust so thick I thought it might choke the sound out of it. But it didn't. The strings were stiff, the notes rough at first, but the music came back. So did I. And one morning, I walked into a local bookstore and struck up a conversation with the owner. Her name was Molly. She had bright eyes, a laugh that made you feel like you said something clever even when you hadn't, and she asked about Jasper before she asked about me. We talked for over an hour, about books, about music, about terrible coffee and quiet escapes. I left the store with a used novel and her number written on the inside cover. I didn't call her right away. I let it sit, let it breathe, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing toward or running from anything. I was just being. Looking back now, I realized Dana didn't destroy me. She released me from the version of myself that accepted too little, asked for too much silence, and stayed long after the love had left the room. She thought her night of freedom would give her clarity, but it gave me the courage to finally live with both feet planted in my own life. And no, it wasn't easy. It still isn't. Some nights the quiet stretches too long. Some mornings I miss the rhythm of routine. But I don't miss her. I don't miss the pretending. I don't miss the weight of waiting to be wanted. I used to think love was about holding on. Now I know sometimes. Real love is what you build for yourself after you let go. Tell me this, viewers of Reddit Confessions, what moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it when he walked away, or when she realized he wasn't coming back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you stayed through the whole story, thank you. Subscribe for more powerful, personal stories like this one. You're not alone here.